And 2.0 and 2.1 would be changes to the agenda. At this time, we don't have any to consider. On Monday night, 3.1, we will have recognition of Landon Taylor, Niceville High School 2022 Distinguished Young Woman of Okaloosa County. And at this time, we don't know about our visitors in Section 4. In Section 5, Administrative Personnel Appointments, we will have one appointment of Assistant Principal 2, 10-month, Meigs Middle School, recommended by the Superintendent for approval. And item 6, at this time, we do not know if we have members of the public desiring to address us. And item 7, Committee and Staff Reports, and this is for the workshop only. 7.1, in-county travel, paid for the period of September the 9th through the 22nd, presented by Julie Perry. 7.2, out-of-county travel, paid for the period of September the 9th through the 22nd, presented by Julie Perry. 7.3, Liza Jackson Prep School, annual financial statement and supplemental audit for the year ended June 30th, 2021, presented by Julie Perry. 7.4, Okaloosa Academy, Inc., basic financial statements and supplemental information for the year ended June 30th, 2021, presented by Julie Perry. Now we'll move on to Section 8, Consent Agenda, and all of these items are actually recommended by the Superintendent for approval. So 8.2, approval of the minutes of the workshop meeting September 23rd, 2021, and minutes of the regular meeting September 27th, 2021. 8.3, appropriation of District 3 School Board Member Capital Outlay Funds to Elliott Point Elementary School Archery Program for targets and archery equipment in the amount of $2,334, presented by Linda Evanchik. 8.4, request to advertise a public hearing for revision of School Board Policy 01-21, Wellness Policy, presented by Lisa Sunday, Insurance Ombudsman, Risk Management. 8.5, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Julie Perry. 8.6, school donations, presented by Julie Perry, Interim Chief Financial Officer. 8.7, agreement between the Foundation Risk Partners Corp., doing business as Accentria Public Risk, and the School Board of Okaloosa County, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.8, sole source purchase over $25,000, Jaeger, presented by Vince Wyndham, Program Director of Purchasing. 8.9, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Howard Technology Solutions, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.10, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Jerry Pate Turf and Irrigation, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.11, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Stewart Tennis Courts and Fencing, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.12, tag on bid purchase over $25,000, Apple, presented by Vince Wyndham, Program Director. 8.13, exempt purchase over $25,000, Curriculum Associates, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.14, amendment to Service Agreement 22-22, Connect ASL Incorporated, presented by Vince Wyndham. 8.15, memorandum of understanding between United Way Emerald Coast and the School Board of Okaloosa County, presented by Steve Horton, Deputy Superintendent. 8.16, joint use agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and the Board of County Commissioners of Okaloosa County, presented by Dr. Bill Smith. 8.17, Trim Care Services Agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Weatherproofing Technologies Incorporated, a subsidiary of Trimco Incorporated, to provide roof warranties, presented by Dr. Bill Smith. 8.18, sale and disposal of surplus property, presented by Steve Bolton, Program Director of Maintenance. 8.19, professional learning catalog for the 2021-2022 school year, presented by Karen Peak. 8.20, school affiliation agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Okaloosa Hospital, doing business as Twin Cities Hospital, for the practical nursing program at OTC, presented by Jeff Palmer. 8.21, School Affiliation Agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County and Fort Walton Beach Medical Center for the Practical Nursing Program at OTC, presented by Jeff Palmer. 8.22, Amendment of the statewide school readiness provider contract between the Early Learning Coalition of the Emerald Coast and Okaloosa County School Board, presented by Jeff Palmer. Moving on to Section 9, Superintendent's Human Resources Recommendations. 9.1, Employees on Administrative Leave, presented by Lee Hale, Assistant Superintendent, HR. 9.2, Deferred Retirement Option Program, DROP, presented by Lee Hale. 9.3, Revised Substitute and Temporary Employee Salary Schedule, presented by Lee Hale. 9.4, Out-of-Field Report for the 2021-2022 school year, presented by Karen Peak. 9.5, Employee Separations, presented by Lee Hale. 9.6, Personnel Recommendations, presented by Lee Hale. 9.7, Employee Transfers, presented by Lee Hale. 9.8, Employee Suspension, presented by Lee Hale. 9.9, Employee Suspension, presented by Lee Hale. 9.10, Employee Suspension, presented by Lee Hale. And 9.11, Leave Without Pay, presented by Lee Hale. Moving on to item 10, discussion agenda. At this time, we do not have any items moved from consent to this area. Moving on to Area 11, Construction Programs Owners Representative Business. And Monday morning, we will have that business meeting, a committee meeting, and at that meeting, Monday night, I'll be able to present you with a full program manager's report. 11.2, Titan Technologies Capital Outlay Program Shared Savings from Task Orders 1, 3, and 8, and Partial Shared Savings Task Order 2, and Closeout of Time and Materials Task Order 5. 11.3, TPM Program Management Number 6, Task Order 4, Scope Modification Prior Middle School Kitchen Renovation, Program Number 6, Task Order 6, presented by Dr. Bill Smith. And now we'll move on to item 12, Information Technology Seat Management Contract. 12.1 is Change Order 18 to the IT Seat Management Outsourcing Contract Modification Agreement, presented by Dustin Keith, Specialist Seat Management. And that moves us right into item 13. We went by pretty quickly today. Item 13, Attorney's Business.
No report this morning.
Thank you. Superintendent.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kelly and school board members. I do have a few items to discuss today, but I want to start with going back to 11.2 for a second. And Dr. Smith, if you would come forward really quickly and just briefly discuss the shared savings and kind of what that is, and then the impact in this particular item.
I'll make a couple of statements, and Julie's actually the one that puts the numbers together. But the way our contract with Jacobs Titan is, once we finish a project, it's against a guaranteed max, and if they exceed that max, they eat that cost. If they come under that max, there's whatever the savings is declared is split 60-40 between the contract that we have, and this is the return savings. This is the money that we would normally not get at all, except for the way our contract is written. So we will be able to take this money and reinvest it back into other capital projects that we'll do in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
That's fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
What was the amount?
Right at $1 million, $960,000.
Yeah, 961,788. Yep.
I thought that's what I read.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Almost,
Mhm.
well,
Almost
over
$1
half a
million.
million.
Gosh, that's
Absolutely.
great.
Almost $1 million.
Yep, terrific.
All right. So, as you might know, this is National Principals Month, and you will see different things that will occur on social media that we'll do from the district level. I know schools will celebrate their principals as well. And one of the things that, as I was thinking yesterday, you think back over the last 2 years, and the role of the principal has changed dramatically. The way that they run a school, the way that they interact with personnel and families and students. And I say this often, but I think we would all agree that we're blessed here in Okaloosa County to have what I believe, and I think you believe, are the best principals a school district could ask for. And to continue to move the mission of a school forward academically with everything else on their plate is a tall order. And as you know, it's already a tall order just to be a principal, period. So just appreciate all that our principals are doing and just want to recognize them this month.
Is there one day, is there like Principal's Day, or is it just throughout the month?
I think there is a Principal's Day, but this is also Principal's Month, so I just look at it across the entire
Okay.
month of October.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Also, this week we were blessed to have a visitor. Myself and Mr. Bryant met with Representative Maney and Mayor J.B. Whitten up in Crestview. And we went to Crestview High School and Richburg School. And what I was very pleased with is Representative Maney came to learn a little bit more about CTE courses, about ESE, and we were able to have several different discussions. As you know, the legislature is currently having meetings, and those meetings that they have will impact the future legislative decisions, and whether that's policies or whether that is funding. So some of the topics that we also talked about was the impact of the minimum wage and what that is going to have on school districts. You know, impact of minimum wage on businesses, you know, they have the ability to increase prices or decrease staff in order to compensate for that increase. School districts don't necessarily have that ability, not that we would want to do that, but the increase in minimum wage over the next couple of years is going to impact school districts significantly and probably impact salary schedules as well. So if additional funding doesn't necessarily come, school districts will have to make some interesting choices as we move forward. Also talked to him about ESE funding. We went into over into Richburg, and you can see with limited number of students, but the number of staff that is definitely needed to meet the needs of those students. So we talked just a little bit about the importance of continuing to look at ESE funding because it is so necessary as we continue to focus on those students. Also talked just a little bit about the hard to fill positions. As you know, we've discussed it, whether it be bus drivers, substitutes, our paraprofessionals, teachers, and why that might be. It's not just an Okaloosa County hard to fill issue, it's across the state, it's across the nation, but just talked about some ideas there. And it was just good to talk about CTE as well and the importance of continuing to fund those programs as we move towards the future. So I felt very good to have a great meeting, and it went really well. A curriculum update. We are making a concerted effort to get back to a sense of more normal as we continue to look at educating our students. And again, a lot on principals' plates, assistant principals, staff, teachers. And our business is about educating students, and we're getting back to that sense of normalcy there. You'll see our curriculum department will be getting back to quarterly meetings where they visit schools, visit classrooms, and provide that support and encouragement to schools, but looking very specifically at their school performance plans, looking very specifically at their data. Mrs. Lightbourne has done a great job looking at schools that might need more support than others, and based on FSA data, based on iReady data, and based on also maybe requests from principals and schools. So there's a differentiated approach that's also going to go towards those schools, things such as Planet Care dollars that we'll use ESSER funds for. We already have a set amount that goes out to all schools, but then we're giving additional funds to some of those schools that might need a little bit of additional support. We are making a shift in Planet Care where normally it's after school tutoring. There will be some before and during. As you know right now, folks are pouring their hearts out during the school day, so it's might not be as easy to get folks after school. So maximizing the school day with creative efforts is something that we're looking at to make sure that we meet the needs of those students as well. So a lot is going on in curriculum. I want to give you a COVID update as well. If you look back to the week of August 28th, we had about 537 cases for the week amongst students and staff. And the week of September 25th, we had about 83 cases for the week. So the numbers are coming down significantly right now. Again, I always say I'd love to have 0 cases. To date, this week to date, we have about 24 cases. We're still waiting on today's numbers and then tomorrow's numbers. But I think we had, I think there was a 9, one day was 9, one day was 7, one day was 6. So the numbers are coming down this week. If the trend continues, we should be below 50 cases. Again, I'd love to be at 0, but the numbers are continuing to come down. With that, we're still looking at our vaccination sites. So for those who choose to do so, we have the week of October 12th through the 14th, so coming up next week. We have our second round of shots, so they'll complete that cycle. If there's a family that wants to do their first shot during the week, they have the ability to do so. But for the second shot, they'd have to go to a different place to get that same shot. Okay? Also, our testing sites are continuing right here at the central office. I've shared with you before that we were going to open up a south and a north site. The company is not able to do so because of the fact that cases seem to be coming down, so they don't have the ability to staff based on the data to go to additional sites. So if anything were to change, we would do that, but right now they're going to continue to stay here at the central complex. Today I'll be talking with principals about the second 9 weeks. So today we'll be finalizing what some of those protocols for the second 9 weeks is going to look like. So we will make some adjustments to our current protocols, and once that is finalized today, talking with principals, we'll be sure to get that out to you all as board members and make sure that we get that out to our families as well. All right, and then the last thing I want to say on COVID, as these numbers continue to come down, I just want to, and I say this not saying that we're stopping protocols, that we're stopping paying attention to COVID, because we're not, but at the end of the 9 weeks, I do think it's appropriate, our COVID administrators, and that's what they're called, our COVID administrators at the school, whether that's the principal or whether that's the assistant principal, the work that they've done over the course of this 9 weeks that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago would have never been part of their job responsibilities. They have done a fantastic job balancing everything that they have to do, and I couldn't be more thankful. Also want to thank our health techs and our nurses. Again, this is not part of their normal protocols, but again, what they've done is nothing less than miraculous as well. And then of course our student services staff here at the district, between Mr. Gore, Ms. Schroeder, and Ms. Lamb, this is what they literally do every day, and looking at these numbers, coordinating with schools, and getting the information out. So just appreciate that. Substitutes. As you know, we had a substitute shortage, and we're still not exactly where we would like to be, but I want to give you just a little bit of data. Our average instructional substitute fill rate the first week of September was about 53%. 53%. And this week we're at 77%. And these statistics right here are the direct result of the board helping us with that compensation, and the direct result of the job that HR is doing and being very proactive, which I appreciate. 1 year ago today, the fill rate was 59%, and today it's 75%. We have 651 active subs. Since the last board meeting, we've hired 49 subs. 10 subs are being hired today, so that number will go up, and then 12 more are in the hopper. So we're continuing to get more subs through the diligent work of HR and those folks, so just appreciate that. And all of you know the impact that that has on the schools by having those subs, and the impact on our teachers and staff. They have Again, I use the word monumental. They have done a monumental job with not having the subs that we need during the first 9 weeks, and the way folks have pitched in, done other job responsibilities. The unions have been great working with us and coordinating MOUs so we can get through this time. The lack of substitutes is not something that is unique to Okaloosa. It's across the state of Florida, and we're going to continue to go through this. A little bit of an update. We should have sometime this month, we should have some more updated numbers on the Central Complex. Once we get that information, we'll be certain that we'll get that with Dr. Kelly and then get that with the entire school board. And then lastly, I want to say, as you know, we have the AS400 system that has been with us since, I believe, the 70s. And the majority of the state of Florida has moved away from systems such as the AS400 to more up-to-date type systems. So I've asked Mr. Mitchell to come and give a brief update on where we are with Focus and how we're transitioning into the next school year.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good. So the school district has begun its transition into the Focus program. The Focus is a new database basically that will replace the AS400 in its entirety. It's basically split into two sections. One section of Focus is the student side, and the other section of Focus is what they call, the new term is ERP, but it's what we would call finance, HR on the second side. And so we are definitely moving forward in that direction. We've had meetings for over a month now with the Focus transition team. We are, one of the primary reasons we are changing is because it was time. The AS400 had served us well, but it's time for it to be replaced with something newer, more robust, more live for data collection and retrieval. And most of the other districts, as the superintendent said, have already made a transition to one program or another. So I will tell you that I did an audit recently, and I gave them an AS400 screen, and that auditor had to ask me what that was. So that means that he hasn't audited a school with an AS400. So that should give you some ideas.
Oh, man.
So what's been done so far? The meetings that we've had over the last month have included a very small but specific group of people who are relative to the data that we're transferring. So these are the primary people who are going to move the data from one place to the other or have significant input into that particular direction. So on the student side, it's a very small group. On the finance side, it's usually the department heads of all your finance departments. So the head of payroll, the head of purchasing, those people are all been included. So let's talk about timelines. The first thing that you should know is this week we actually started data transition. So actually yesterday we started granting access to the AS400 to the people who work at Focus. And they started pulling data files and doing all that piece. And looking at how our data sits in there so they can find out if there's a question that they have that they can ask it. What does this mean? What does this mean? What are you collecting this for? Those kind of things that they're looking into. But ultimately, within the next 2 weeks or so, we'll start actual file transfer. We'll start with all the different types of elements. It starts off as a general file, and then we get specific as we move on forward. It leads us to what's coming next in November. The first week in November, we are calling Focus Awareness Week, which seems weird, but that's what we called it. And Focus Awareness Week is when the department people who have the most say-so in this application will actually see their part of the system for the first time. It won't be fully loaded with data, but it'll have enough in there so that they can look at it. And these are, it's like 19 meetings over 7 days. Each one lasts about 2 hours. And they go in, each department goes in and goes, I like that, I don't like that, this is great, what is this, why do we need it, I need this and it's not here. And we have all those meetings so that we can start making sure that what they're going to enter into and Focus when they're ready to take over the system there has everything they need. And maybe even some things they didn't know they could have. And so that's what that is are starting to take place. And those begin the first week in November and go through that, and that's just for the student side. The finance side, that exact same set of meetings happens, but it doesn't happen until March. So and there's no reason for that delay other than that's about the time frame it needs to happen. So it's not going to significantly change everything. First things that parents may see, we will be doing high school sign up for classes a little differently this year as preparing, because the first people at the schools who will actually use the program are your schedulers. And they'll begin scheduling students in this system as soon as this February. But as we go through, students and parents won't actually gain access to the new system until September. And that's when everything will come online. All of the new parent portals, the new things for students to be able to use, assignments, all the new bells and whistles, they all come on. And that's because the new grade book comes online in August. We are actually training teachers during that teacher planning day for the district in August. That's when they'll learn their new grade book. So that's kind of the idea of some of the timelines that we've got. The first surveys we'll be transmitting will be the ones in July. And then the finance package and the HR package come online after we finish next summer's hiring, probably around the 1st of October. We need to finish out the fiscal year and get all those accounts terminated and tied off before we can do the transition. Now, other things will be happening in the background. There'll be a lot of file data transfer during that time. The cool thing is that when it's all said and done, is that when I'm a finance user, when I sit down and we take over in October, everything I've done for that year will already be sitting there waiting for me. We'll be making it as smooth and as easy a transition as possible. We've put training teams to work already. We're meeting weekly with just about everybody, so it's all headed in the right direction. And all of our timelines are currently on point. The only other thing I'll add to that is that starting in about a week or two at the most, I don't think it'll take more than a couple of weeks, the new website will appear, just like the construction websites. That'll say, this is Focus, and here's where we are, and here's what we're doing. And that website will morph as we go on forward. It'll start with what we're doing now, and it'll add the help desk features where people can put in tickets online and they'll get access to the Focus Help email address. It'll continue to morph as we go further down with more details, training videos, all the different pieces and parts related to Focus. So that'll be where folks will know to go when they need to know how to make something work in Focus or how to put in work orders and tickets. And that'll all morph as we go along. It'll grow right along with us. And that's already been set aside. But that's the general information about Focus. Is there specific questions that I can answer today?
Madam Vice Chair, just a couple of comments, please. Well, first of all, I appreciate what you're doing and moving us into the 21st century. Because one of the things about being senior is I remember when we brought on the AS400, and that was a long time ago. I'm smiling to myself because I remember at that time the comment of the data processing director, who was a friend of mine, when he brought on the AS400 system. And his remark was, I just hope I never have to do this again before I retire. And I know it's a mammoth undertaking, and you know, the DP world has a name for this, and it's called migration. And it is a significant effort, and it involves not only the hardware and the software, but it involves what you've already talked about, and I appreciate you recognizing that, and that's the peopleware, because that's where the real effort, in my opinion, will occur. But I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
In the AS400 system, I know that we employ a number of software writers and software engineers. Will they have a place in this new system?
Yes. Either due to the staff that I will have to keep on to continue to function with this program, or they'll be here about the time they would attrition out anyway. And so between those two things, all of that will work out like it should. We shouldn't have to relocate anybody
Okay.
as a result of this transition.
And so and I don't know how Focus works, if it's open source or but will we be able to write programs to assess data that we may want that's not included in Focus?
Yes and no. Part of that is contractual,
All right.
part of it's not. But yes, our programmers are going to receive training on the platform that Focus is run on and are expected to be able to contribute in that in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Okay.
Focus kind of has a model like other companies have not had, which is if it's good for them, it's probably good for everybody. So if they've got a couple people who can program and write us something that we can use with the other districts, it's in everybody's best interest that we do so.
Okay, all right.
So, and matter of fact, right off the bat, we're sharing something Santa Rosa did, so that we're bringing in to make life easier for us. So that's very good.
Okay. And I guess the last thing was, as a school board member, I'm always concerned about budget. And of course, our budget is largely dictated by our FTE and how we pay that. And I know that we've used the AS400 in the past. And I think I heard you say that we'll stay on the AS400 as we make our FTE numbers. And would you speak to that just for a moment?
Sure. So what we're talking about are the surveys that we transmit. Every time we transmit a survey, we're sending data to Tallahassee. Sometimes those numbers are used for all different things, but it's also used to give us our money for funding, the October and the February surveys specifically. And so currently our team right now is working on the October numbers in the AS400.
Okay.
They will stay in the AS400 working on their surveys all the way through the summer. After the summer, they'll transition to the new system. Once we start putting students in there and building schedules, they'll be able to do it that way. The anticipation is next year's October survey will be transmitted by Focus.
Okay, that's a big change.
Now, but the good news is about that change is that the way things have done in the past, all the things that we've had to do about those numbers and getting those processed are now part of the new system that the Tallahassee uses, which is called, it's a different kind of mainframe that they've been using. Long story short, when you put the two together, you get a much simpler way to be able to check errors, fix problems,
good.
and do those kind of things that we don't have now.
Yep. And what gives me some comfort is I think when you and I talked, you said that there are already a number of school districts in Florida that are using this system. I mean,
That is
we're
correct.
not the one and only first time.
No, I would say the majority of Florida districts are on Focus for Student,
Good, that helps us.
They've worked out the bugs.
Hope so.
including both our districts to our west and several of the districts to our immediate east.
Okay, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I just had a couple of questions, Eric.
Sure.
So I think I'm hearing you say that there might be a phase where we're running both systems simultaneously? Or phasing?
There will be some of
Okay.
those, but those will be seen primarily district level office only.
Okay. And then everything is being backed up that we had in the AS400 so that no record is lost in
No.
that transition?
Matter of fact, the AS400 is actually going to continue to stay functional, although we're not going to allow connections to it. It'll actually be maintained as a functional database for several years.
Okay.
We won't access it unless we have a data request that is outside the scope of something we've transferred into Focus.
Very good.
Most of what we're going to transfer into Focus will fall under the 10-year rule. Everything we have to keep for 10 years we'll keep, with the exception of transcripts, which have to be kept for life, and those will also be all migrated into the Focus system.
That's good to know. And maybe it would help us with sharing academic histories and transcripts if our neighbors also have Focus, as you say.
Both systems still
So that's
connect to the
good.
FASTER system. So right now, FASTER's doing all of that, so FASTER will keep doing that for now. But yes,
Okay.
that'll make a
Super.
big difference.
Sounds good.
Great.
Anyone else? Thank you. Anything else?
No, ma'am, that's it.
Okay.
May I ask a follow-up question with Superintendent? Superintendent, I noticed that we have what appear to be some guests in
Yeah.
the audience.
I
and
was
I'm-
going to mention
I'm
that.
Yeah, I was
I
wondering
have
gonna
them
say
on my
they-
list.
if we might call Mr.
Absolutely.
Frakes up and,
Mhm.
Morning.
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 Yes, as Dr. White pointed out, we have some folks with us here this morning related to the RFP that was presented, the agreement. What's on the agenda this week is the approval of that agreement that we've entered into for broker services with Accentria. They were selected by the committee, by the RFP committee here a couple of weeks ago. And we have with us today Mike Caraway, if you want to step forward, and Kevin Locke, both representatives of Accentria that will be assisting us going forward, working with the Benefits Oversight Group. Mr. Caraway's got a tremendous amount of experience in this area, in the Panhandle area specifically. He has worked closely with both Santa Rosa County District Schools and Bay County District Schools.
Right.
Took both of those groups from fully insured groups to self-funding arrangements, so he's very experienced in that area. I know we have some interest there. That's something that the BOG has been looking at closely over the past year plus. So we're very excited to have Accentria in, start this relationship, and dig in and work closely with our Benefits Oversight Group. We're going to get started here pretty quickly. Open enrollment starts Monday, so they're coming in at a great time. It's going to be busy, but they're looking forward to the challenge, I know. And Mike, let's turn that over to you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Russ. And I'm really looking forward to working with Okaloosa County Schools. Russ and I have been acquainted for many years and started talking about this a couple of years back at some point of where they were. And he and Pam Smith at Santa Rosa County, which is a dear friend of mine.
Mine too.
We moved them self-funded about 6 years ago. They've had tremendous success. And I'm looking forward to that challenge and working with the BOG and Russ and his team to see if that's a good solution for Okaloosa schools. So,
Well, let me ask you, what else are you going to do for us besides just being self-funded?
well, our goal is to make sure that we manage all of your plans, not just your health plan, but your ancillary coverages as
Yeah.
well. We're going to explore different medical options, different pharmacy plans. Our goal at the end of the day is to roll out the best benefits to the school district employees and their dependents at the best cost.
There you go.
That's
Okay.
our
That's
goal.
it.
That's it, that's right.
And we think we can accomplish that in short order. But we're going to do it with not just, hey, we think this is the best because we've done this at other places. We're going to take your data, and we're going to use an analytics system, put that in there, so we're making an informed and educational decision.
Excellent.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
I would point out, though, that when we talk about self-funding, and it's something that's being explored. It's not, and as Mike pointed out, all the analytics that will go into that, whatever the decision is, and it may be that we stay the course and
Right.
we remain a fully insured group. There's no, but that information will be there. That will be a decision that will be based on. That will be based in the data, the analytics that come out of that. We have that capability now with Accentria, so we're going to utilize that, leverage that to our benefit. So there's no certain course that's been selected at this point, but it's more exploratory at this point for us. And let's find out what the data says, and get some more information and make those informed decisions going forward as to what is best for the employees of the school district and of course the district itself. So because
Well, now,
what's good for one is good for all.
I'm sure, Mr. Frakes, that you've spoken with him about the great rates that you were able to negotiate for the school board this
Yes.
past session.
Yes, that
and,
we
yeah.
were
You got a tough act to
excited
follow.
about that.
I do,
Absolutely.
I do. Yes, sir. Yeah. And it's every year is something that we're going to be looking at very closely. And Mr. White, I just want to know that I got the memo.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I like your tie. Thank you, Ms. Vanchek and I, and everybody else does too.
Yes.
Thank you.
I just want to say that it sounds so good to hear this year compared to what we were hearing last year,
ma'am.
which was not music to my ears, and I spoke up about that. But just like we're turning the corner and, like you said, moving into a new century with our the AS400 change, I feel that way about our insurance. I feel like we had been stuck with what we were offering our employees and the cost to our district, and I feel much better about, and I hope the rest of the board does too, that we're moving into healthcare and insurance for a new century, and where everybody, and I am thrilled that we're moving in this direction. It's a pleasure to meet you and your group back there. We've known Mr. Locke for a long time and everything. So I feel very optimistic that we're going in the right direction. I know we're starting this year. We're not self-insured. We're going to work with this, but it's something that I felt was stagnant, and we need to grow and to change with the needs of our employees and our district, and of course, reaching that financial set point that we're all comfortable with. So thank you very much for joining the team and for working so hard, Mr. Frakes, with your group to get us there.
Yes, ma'am.
And I was just going to say, I had this on my talking points for board members' business, but I was just going to say two things. One, what a blessing it is to be able to work across district lines and talk to our comrades across the borders and be able to work back and forth, sharing positive ideas, such as with Pam Smith, my friend in Santa Rosa. I haven't remembered since Jim Palmer's days of us looking into being self-insured. So, and certainly appreciate Kevin Locke for decades and his comrades there, and we welcome you aboard, Mr. Carraway. But just to say those two things, I think that it's phenomenal that we are now looking once again at the needs of the district and how to best serve everyone. So thank you. Thank you, Russ, for bringing that in.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Locke, Mr. Carraway.
Also want to thank Miss Cindy back there, because she's the
Yes,
go-to
she's-
call person and has done a fabulous job. Don't want to leave her out today.
That's right. She does a good job.
Absolutely.
All right, anything else on that item? Anyway. All right, we'll move then now to section 15, and we do have an item there, 15.1, to consider travel requests by Mr. Bryant to attend the FSBA and FAD's annual joint conference in November, November 30th through December 3rd. And I know that he is now in attendance at a different conference. So board members will be prepared to consider that on Monday night. And that moves us to 15.2, board members' announcements and requests for information. So this morning, I think we'll start with Ms. Gardner.
Okay. Mr. Chambers, you mentioned being October National Principals Month. I also want to send my thank you. I don't know that people really realize, unless you've been in that seat or you've worked in some type of capacity, the job these individuals do. They are spinning a lot of plates, and they do a beautiful job in balancing those. I hope they also take care of themselves. They take care of so many people that I think often, as we all do, we take care of everybody else around us. But our principals have been through a lot, and they still have more to go through. So again, I just truly appreciate, and I think I can speak for all of us, that our principals, hopefully they know that they can call any one of us that if they need help or support. I'm going to offer up if we even need to sub or tutor, or
Absolutely.
not
I've
tutor,
done it. I've done it.
volunteer or proctor, whatever it may be, our principals are welcome to call us. We also, Dr. White, when he came in through the front door, as I mentioned, you're looking very dapper today in your pink.
Yep.
And I've always appreciated your leadership and whatever the situation may be. But I just want to also send out my well wishes and prayers with this being October and National Breast Cancer Awareness Month to our governor, his wife Casey, and what they're going through. And also we have many employees in our own district that are also fighting this terrible disease. And I see Miss Sunday with insurance shaking her head. And, you know, just also, again, to send Casey DeSantis and our employees well wishes, prayers, and I know that any of us are always there to help support them. So again, thank you, Dr. White,
Thank
for your leadership, and you do look very dapper in that pink right there.
He does.
You should-
Well, I wear this once a year.
well,
maybe
I
twice.
think we can come up with some other times for you to wear it, because you do look very nice in it. But that's all. But thank you, Dr.
All right,
Kelly.
Ms. Aventure.
Yeah, well, and speaking on that, we have unfortunately lost some employees, and I just want to send out condolences to Crestview High School, also our maintenance group. We've lost, unfortunately, some employees. That's always tough. You know, we may not see everybody all the time, but we are a big family in Okaloosa County, so it hurts to have to let some people go, and everything. So, and I want to, you know, echo the principals. I don't know how they do it. I'm not sure when they sleep, but they do a fabulous job, and we just could not maintain without them. All right, first of all, it is homecoming this week for Baker, and I'm excited to be able to go up there and share with their festivities. You know, they're in a unique situation where they get to have a little parade because of their contained area there. So I'll be in the parade, and Dr. Kelly wanted to get me a tiara, but I've declined. Don't want to be showy on that. But
Just need to practice your wave.
I got the wave, yeah. Elbow, wrist, I got it, yeah. So, but we're excited. And last week, the Baker Gators won their 18th consecutive game. So they're rolling on. They play a J tomorrow night, which is a big competitor. Also want to congratulate Baker's band director, Mr. Stuart Campbell. His band went up to Andalusia, and every unit was ranked superior along with the overall band. So very proud of Mr. Campbell. He's not been with the program very long, right out of college just a few years ago, but he does a fabulous job with his students up there. So I'm very proud of them and looking forward to seeing them tomorrow night. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just want to share with one of my colleagues that I've been very concerned about some information recently in the media concerning a letter issued by the president of the National School Boards Association and the interim executive director of the National School Boards Association. I'm sure that you've seen those media reports. They were on as early as this morning before I came to this meeting. But in any case, I've prepared some materials that I'd like to distribute to you, and I'll start by going this way, and then I'll go this way. And the first is the actual letter issued by the National School Boards Association to President Joe Biden. And if you haven't had a chance to see the letter, this will be a copy that you can take a look at. Following the issuance of this letter by the National School Boards Association, I'll now distribute to you a memorandum from the Office of the Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Merrick Garland. And if you haven't had a chance to see that, I want to go ahead and pass that out to you as well. And then finally, I want to distribute to you a statement by Governor DeSantis regarding both the letter and certainly the information from Attorney General Merrick Garland. And so I think it's important, in my opinion, from this board member's perspective, to make it very clear that this school board has always encouraged and desired parental, community, and public input. And there is abundant evidence of this fact. Of course, we expect folks to help us maintain appropriate decorum, but we want public input. In fact, this school board has expanded the time allowed for public input and added extra time at the end of our meetings for public input. Our meetings are live streamed and are archived for viewing at any time by anyone with a personal computing device. In addition, I know that we often provide our personal cell phones and even our own personal emails to our constituents. I firmly believe that we want their thoughts and ideas as we make sometimes very difficult policy decisions. We are accessible and we are involved in the community that we serve. And I'll just share with you that recently, in two very recent community meetings that I've attended, this matter has come up. So to make a long story short, I'm very concerned about the information that I just gave to you. And as you know, our school board is a long-standing member of the Florida School Boards Association. And you should know that that also makes us, our school district, when we pay our school board dues to the Florida Association, a contributor to the National School Boards Association, as a portion of our dues are used toward membership in the National School Board Association. And so yesterday, just for informational purposes, I called for the executive director of the Florida School Boards Association. And I was curious about how this letter came from the National School Boards Association. And I asked, were you polled by the National School Boards Association before? this letter was issued. And she indicated to me that that was not the case. And I would encourage all of you maybe to place a call to the executive director of the Florida School Boards Association. And you too might have some questions.
Michelle White.
And I would say to you that one of your questions might be, is it accurate that the Florida School Boards Association has not paid the dues to the National School Boards Association? And if so, why is that? Why would that be? And I think that's information that I know that you would want to have. But to make a long story short, I wouldn't want Dr. Kelly to have the fastest meeting on record. So
Thank you.
I'll continue to talk just for a couple of minutes. I am prepared to bring forward an action item on Monday evening to be considered by this school board should I receive a second. And that action would be for this school board to join in partnership, if you will, with the Florida School Board Association and request that no portion of the funds that we provide to the Florida School Board Association go toward membership in the National School Boards Association. And I'll share with you, and when and if you talk with the executive director, that they have told me that they could find a way to make that happen should my colleagues on the school board wish to do that. All right? And that's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Anyone else on that topic?
Yes, I want to ask him a question about that. So what you're saying is if we vote in to not have our dues to the Florida, none of that would go to the national. They can do that from each district?
Well, I think, again, I hate to recant a conversation.
I need to call and ask them that?
And
Yeah.
I think so. But I think what I'm suggesting is that we have been a forever member of the Florida School Boards Association, and that we would continue with that. It's just that our dues, what we pay to them, none of those dues would be given to the National School Board Association.
Gotcha. And they can do that. And I'll call and see how they do that.
That's what I was told.
Okay. But I do appreciate you bringing out, I've, like you and like I think all of us on this board sitting here today, we've been in this district a long time.
That's
We've
right.
seen a lot of different boards come and go. But and nothing critical of any of them because things change with the time, but I've never seen a board, a group of individuals more accessible to the public than this group that we have now. We are, like you said, out there. We give out our personal information. My phone rings, I answer it. I don't have somebody answer for me. I talk to them. And so I think, and I guess I'll always remember sitting in a 6.5-hour meeting about a year ago as we allowed the public to come forward and speak. So we have always been open to that, and I want that to stay. I will say that as a board member, I want to continue to allow our public, as long as it's done in an appropriate way, to address us. So thank you for bringing that forward. I had not seen all of this information.
And I will say, I think Dr. White and I both responded online to that post about this very same situation. And I would say again, what I said in that post basically is that many of us wear our school board hat wherever we go in this community.
Absolutely.
Most of us serve on other boards. We're participants in many other things in these communities that we serve, and we are very easily approachable. I've never had an assembly when I was a school principal where I didn't give out my personal cell phone and email, and do to this day. And many of us visit our schools regularly. We are out and about. We attend events at the schools. We go when our principals invite us, and we check in on teachers who have asked us to come to their classrooms and see the great things that they're doing. So I think that we are very obviously easily accessible and respondent and responsive to those who elected us to serve in these positions. And I think that we'll always be that way. I further think that this is the first time in the history of our school district that I can recall, and as a lifelong resident here and a 42 plus now years working in education, that we've had 3 former principals and a former longtime teacher serving on this board. So I think that makes us even more aware of the need for public input, certainly from our parents and other educators. So I'll just resolve that by saying that I concur with what you said, and as I said on the post that we both responded back to, Dr. White, I think that we are certainly most open and easily accessible and want to continue to be that to those that we were elected to serve. Thank you. Anything else on that topic? All right, everyone has spoken, so I'll go around the room now. Thank you. Mr. Strong? Yeah, come on.
I went to the closet and I tried to pick something pink this morning.
Oh,
when I
no,
walked
you
in.
don't have any.
Close
We can
enough
fix
doesn't
that
even
for
look
you.
pink, does it?
No.
Madam Chair, Superintendent, and board members, thank you so much for what you do. I just wanted to let you know that yesterday we were able to put out the Education Staff Professional of the Year packet. If you haven't got a copy of that, we'll make sure you get one. A lot of work went into that this year to try to streamline that effort, to take out duplications in the process. Just, a lot of those duplications we had put in because those things weren't being observed, but we just decided to try to streamline it this year. So hopefully that'll work better, and I appreciate you sending that out. Hopefully we'll get 100% return on that. Looking forward to that work. And we would love it if you would help participate in gathering those little trinkets and prizes. If you can do that, there's about 50 sites. And then we have the top 3. So however you want to help with that, we'd love that. And I wanted to share why that might be particularly important this year, if you don't mind. I wanted, Greg and I looked at drivers just a few weeks ago. September the 1st, we had 51 less drivers in this district than we did 5 years ago. 51.
Pretty
and I know we have
significant.
more students. On September the 30th, we had about 1,211 support personnel on the payroll. March of 2020, we had 1,328. So that's 117 less employees. And I know the current employees are picking up those additional workloads at those sites. And the additional workload filling in for classrooms where there's teachers absent because of sub situations. So I always say, hug a support staff, thank those custodians and those drivers and those paras and the secretaries and the maintenance men, the custodian, everybody in the schools. We just need to really praise them. And of course, you know how I feel about principals and teachers, but those are my responsibilities. So definitely hug them. We thank you so much.
Thank
Will you send me
Patrick.
those stats, please?
They are just on this, and I'd be glad to write something up more
Okay.
if you'd like for me to.
Thank you.
Glad to do.
Thank you,
Does take a
Patrick.
team.
Jordan, you want to add? Nothing to add? Mr. Meyer, back there, anything? Sheila? Lee? Julie? All right, that's all I have. This meeting is adjourned.
Good job, man.
Nice job.
Thank you.